Out of the millions of stories that have ever been told, only a few have become timeless classics. Two of the most iconic are Star Wars and The Wizard of Oz. These aren't just popular stories, they are cultural survivors that dominated their generations and spread across the world. So the question isn't, are they good stories? The question is, why did they survive when all the other stories disappeared? To find the answer, I want you to close your eyes and tell me which story I'm describing. Once upon a time, there was a young woman who became a prisoner in a strange, hostile world run by an evil figure dressed in black. But she was saved when three strange friends, one from a farm, one who was made of metal, and one who was covered in fur, came to her rescue. Which story is it? A. Star Wars, or B. The Wizard of Oz? Give up? It's C. All of the above. Star Wars is The Wizard of Oz, only set in space with the Scarecrow as the main character instead of Dorothy. It sounds crazy at first because on the surface, they seem to be completely different. The novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, was published in 1900. The film version was released in 1939. It's an American children's fantasy story set in rural Kansas in the 1800s with magical witches and munchkins. Star Wars came out in 1977, nearly 4 decades after Oz and 77 years after the novel. It's a science fiction epic set in a galaxy far, far away with laser swords and space empires. Different eras, different genres, different settings, completely different worlds, right? Actually, when you line them up, something remarkable happens. You run into some incredible coincidences. First, in the film versions of each story, there is one character wearing a hairy animal man costume and another actor wearing a shiny metal robot-like costume. How many stories have both a hairy animal character and a shiny metal robot character? But the parallels don't stop there. Both stories also feature villains dressed nearly identically. The Wicked Witch of the West and Darth Vader both seem to shop at the same store. Both are unable to get enough of sweeping black robes and black headgear. Then there's the main premise of rescuing a girl stuck in a dangerous world. In both stories, young women find themselves stranded in strange and hostile worlds from which they desperately wish to escape. Dorothy wishes to leave Oz and get back to Kansas. She's been swept away by a tornado into a land that wants to kill her, and her little dog too. Princess Leia is captured and imprisoned on the Death Star. She's trapped in a hostile galaxy ruled by an evil empire that wants to destroy her. Both young women are in mortal danger. Both need to escape. Both are helpless without aid. Both young women have short, loyal little sidekicks that cannot speak, yet are more perceptive than the other characters realize. Dorothy has Toto, a small dog that barks but never speaks human language, who is fiercely protective and loyal. Leia has R2-D2, a small droid that beeps but never speaks human language, who is fiercely protective and loyal. Notice the names, Toto, R2-D2. Both are 4-letter names with a sing-song quality that are short and memorable. To escape Oz, Dorothy, with her small, loyal Toto, comes upon a ragtag group of figures willing to help her. There's a hairy creature, the Cowardly Lion. There's a shiny metallic creature, the Tin Man. And there's a clueless farm figure, the Scarecrow. To escape the Death Star, Leia, with her small, loyal R2-D2, comes across a ragtag group of figures willing to help her. There's a hairy creature, Chewbacca, there's a shiny metallic creature, C-3PO, and there's a clueless farm figure, Luke. The sheer number of shared details between The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars are nothing short of astonishing. What are the odds of 2 different films with a hairy animal and a shiny metal robot appearing as companions? Maybe 1 in 500. With both villains wearing flowing black robes and headgear, 1 in 200. With a young woman trapped in a hostile world desperate to escape, 1 in 100. With a small, 4-letter name sidekick who communicates without real words, 1 in 1,000. And the kicker, a ragtag rescue team consisting of a hairy creature, a metallic being, and a clueless farm figure, 1 in 10,000. Add in a vanishing mentor, an army of identical, incompetent minions, a dark, fortress-like lair, and a villain undone by a laughably simple weakness, and you've hit the jackpot. Multiply those together, very generously assuming each is independent, and you land the chances of this just being a random coincidence somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 in 1.5 septillion. That's stars in the observable universe territory. Which theory best explains this phenomenon? A. George Lucas was president of the Wizard of Oz fan club. B. L. Frank Baum was a time traveler who copied Star Wars and went back to the 1800s and wrote Oz. Or C. This story structure is the narrative equivalent of a golden ratio. It shows up everywhere, from ancient epics to modern blockbusters, because something in our brains is hardwired to respond to it. The answer is, of course, C, because underneath all compelling classic stories are the same simple fundamentals that make them work. Every timeless story teaches you about the three parts of your nature: your capacity to think, the Scarecrow's brain; your capacity to be fierce and protective, the lion's courage; and your capacity to feel and love, the Tin Man's heart. Every timeless story shows you that you possess amazing capabilities that you don't know you have. Every timeless story demonstrates that companions complete you, that you cannot succeed alone. Every timeless story reveals that love, friendship, and justice are more powerful than darkness and evil. These revelations aren't coincidences. They aren't accidents. Once you know what these fundamental truths are and use them as a measuring stick, you can break down and understand almost any story at the granular level. The author of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz knew them. The filmmakers of Star Wars knew them. Every story that has lasted centuries knew them. Because they're not teaching you about witches or empires or magical lands or distant galaxies. They're teaching you about yourself. Want to know more about what the hidden parts of your nature are? Take the Know Thyself quiz in the description. See you next week, Michael.